It's November the 1st, 2016. I'm here with Joan Price at 3 The Acres, Silverdale. And Joan is going to give us her memories and experiences of Silverdale. Joan, could you tell me what your first connections were with Silverdale, please?
Well, being an avid reader from a childhood, my first connection came from reading the Domesday Book, where I found the information in that regarded Silverdale, as later on was St Luke's Church, built in 1853, which, due to the Domesday Book over 1,000 years ago, changed it from being a hamlet to a village. And I thought Silverdale, the name Silverdale, became rather poetically from the numerous silver birch trees. And that's all. Silverdale was Wedgwood's train Friday night, learning to dance in spooners and Prince's Buzz with wooden slats seats so they could hose it out. No pithead baths. Every job pit or brickyard went home in the dirt. This was the 1948, right? Actually living in Silverdale came from when the park site was built, and it catered for a more cosmopolitan area than it is now. Due to the mob after the Second World War, we found numerous nationalities here. They fought in the 8th Army, Polish Air Force. The single men were sent to Nutton Hostel because they could not go home. Married men, most of them, to Blackshire. There were local miners, Scots, Geordies, Welsh, Irish were the only one that we did not have a lot of. We set about trying to repair 6 long years of war, of rations till 1953. The whole world was ravaged. The men worked on all sorts of labour, while places were changed from war work to other production, and it was the woman's role to support them.
Can you tell us what the female role in life was in the village in the 50s, please?
By then, by some turn of life, Keele University opened and provided women with all sorts of hours of work to cope with children's schooling, and factories like RIS, AIGC opened up all sorts of production line, and the women's role began to change from existing on one man's wage to living on 2. That's it.
Can you tell us what your husband's working life was like at the pit, please?
By then, George was with George working at Kent's Lane before we were married. We were lucky to be allocated a house on Park site by the Coal Board. So from January 1954, Cheltenham Grove became our home. George soon became interested in Kiswo, the colliery welfare, and as usual, myself and all the other wives became the backup of some of the schemes. Children's Christmas parties, pantos, gala days, and retired miners' work evening. And in work, he progressed in all mining qualifications. He became very interested in the NUM and was elected NUM president for 29 years until the strike. He lost the ballot by 1 vote. He stayed at the pit until the pit was closed off. He would not go over to the drip mine. He took redundancy in his late 50s. We had a very wonderful life, both in work and socially.
Were there any notable local characters that you'd like to tell us about, Joan?
Well, the only notable one actually from Silverdale is Fanny Deakin. I never met her, but I read about her and knew that she was a brown communist. But she built the Fanny Deakin maternity home, which saved a lot of deaths in mothers and babies, and bankrupted herself in doing it. On the humorous side, you've got Michael Donovan. Everybody knew him and everybody went along with his humour. He lived with Joe Stedman, the paperman, and his truck with his used to sell out-of-date comics was a regular Sunday night trip around the village. We have only one sad thing to say about Michael, and that was when Joe passed away. He went to the local pub for brandy, and because he said he was that cold and he couldn't get him wanted to warm him up. When they went to the house, Joe had been dead for 3 days. Consequently, Michael lost his home and went to St. Augustine's home in Longton, where he consequently died. I have no idea the year, but he never married consequently to whatever he told everybody else, and he certainly wasn't the father of 8 children, but he was a character, and everybody on this village can remember him. I hope with fantastic memories of him, and people that read about this is what a village character is really about.
Can you tell us what changes you've seen in the village in your lifetime, please, Joan?
In my lifetime, I've seen the village old houses demolished, new houses were built, council houses, Parkside, Underwood Road, for people to move into. The parade was built, Church Street was demolished, and the park was built. The businesses were were 2 private ones, which was the post office and Latham's. The rest were council owned, and they moved on to the parade as it is now. The library came after the cinema and Spooner's dance hall were demolished. The doctor's surgery was because all doctors amalgamated out of their own properties, and it will be under the national health. I wonder if it will ever be called a village again due to the building going on and the annex to Kew University students' accommodation. Alas, but that's in the future.
What was your experience of the strike in 1984?
After the strike was called in 1984, it became a woman's place to organise the food parcels and serve out, and I can honestly say they all worked 110% to keep morale high. After it was over, it turned out that those who worked would not benefit the pit closing anyway. It closed anyway. Again, the women had to reorganise around no employment. They worked and did jobs to keep the family going. It was a very sad time.
I know you've been involved in saving Silverdale Library. Can you tell us the story of that, please?
Oh, this is a story. One Friday night in 2014, the Sentinel reported that Silverdale Library was being closed due to staff's county council cuts. We were all in a coffee morning in May Street at Silverdale. You would have thought World War III had started. They wanted to know what to do. We sent for 2 councillors over to ask what help they could give us. They arranged that if we did a petition, they would provide the paperwork and everything else. We were given the paperwork, ironically, on the Wednesday. Then I was informed that Friday the MP was coming, our MP was coming into Newcastle and would come to the library. By Friday, we met him. I turned it over to him with the papers with 500 signatures. How we got them in a day, I do not know. But everybody, woman, they made people go. There was papers up everywhere in the post office, the shops, everybody. Even the doctor's surgery gave us one just to back us up. And it was well worthwhile. We did have a consultation later on in the August, but I made it stay until there was 24 of us in, not a one-to-one. And we were there 3 hours and a quarter. The poor lass was worn out. But we got it itemised, the thing, and we've managed to keep the library open under the same circumstances until 2016. Now, that's when it comes to this, we turned it over to the parish council to take, if they go. We could not take over the library. We hadn't got the finance to do it. So there's been a package brought in, I'm not mentioning any, package brought in that has rescued the library. But let me make a funny thing. When we did this, ironically, the powers that be called us the Brolly Brigade because we were all old women. They thought we were just play acting, but they were determined. They were grand lasses, all of them. And now we've got this package. It is up to, once again, it's up to every woman, grandmother, mother, children, anything, to support this package and to support your library. You'll never get a building like this again.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about Silverdale, Joan?
Well, as women and widows here, the final epitaph, or I think, would fit to see the final erection of the pit wheel. That would satisfy a lot of the older generation, myself included, as a memorial to the pit, 200 years of the pit. And the other is a bit of my own humour. I was brought up with two adages. Well, I've thought of two adages. One was, behind every good man was a woman. But the best I know is, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world.